What if I told you Canada's national defense could be at risk, not from a foreign adversary, but from a contract we're about to sign with our closest ally? What if, in the process of securing our future, we're actually mortgaging our sovereignty? The F-35, promised as our key to security, may not be the solution we think it is. Are we repeating the mistakes of the past, once again outsourcing our defense to a foreign power? So what's the real cost of putting all our eggs in one basket? Hello friends, and welcome back to Skyjet Wings. Thanks for joining me today. What if the biggest threat to Canada's national defense isn't some foreign adversary, but a contract with our closest ally? And by trying to buy security, we might be mortgaging our sovereignty. As Canadians, we value steady governance and prudence, but right now we might be confusing prudence with passivity. We're on the verge of signing a deal that could financially burden us for decades and leave our Air Force at the mercy of Washington. Today, we're looking at the cold facts of the F-35 program with lessons from Switzerland's painful experience. This isn't just about jets, it's about whether Canada remains sovereign or becomes a vassal state. In 2021, Switzerland signed a fixed-price deal for 36 F-35 jets at 6 billion Swiss francs. Fast forward to today, and that price tag ballooned by nearly 1.5 billion francs due to inflation and tariffs. Despite warnings, politicians pushed the deal through, and now the Swiss public is furious. If Switzerland couldn't protect itself from these cost adjustments, what hope does Canada have? The F-35 program is not about cost certainty. It's a subscription service where prices can change at will. Do you think Ottawa can avoid the same fate as Switzerland? Type "not safe" in the comments if you see the same risks ahead. Next, we'll dive into the numbers behind this deal, and trust me, they're terrifying for Canada's economy.
That was the number initially sold to the public, 19 billion CAD. A lot of money, but maybe manageable for a G7 nation. However, within just one budget cycle, that cost skyrocketed to 27.7 billion CAD, a nearly 50% increase before the first jet is even ready. If a contractor raised your house price by 50% before laying the foundation, would you keep paying or call a lawyer? But 27.7 billion is just the start. The Auditor General, Karen Hogan, has warned about the full ecosystem costs. The F-35 is not just a jet. It's a high-maintenance, sensitive system that needs specialized infrastructure, climate-controlled environments, power systems, and high-security data networks, which our bases don't have. Billions in infrastructure upgrades were conveniently left out of the original cost. We're not just buying planes, we're rebuilding our military infrastructure to fit American hardware.
Some estimates push the total cost to 33.2 billion Canadian, and that's just the purchase price. The sustainment costs to keep them flying for 30 years are expected to be tens of billions more. This could force future governments to cut funding for healthcare, education, and pensions just to keep these jets in the air. This isn't just costly, it's financial malpractice. Our own Auditor General says the Department of National Defense is only 50% confident in their budget projections. Half certainty, half risk? That's not a strategy, it's a gamble. But the cost is just part of the story. We must also face the sovereignty issue. Are we buying a shield or accepting a leash? For generations, Canadians have debated defense capabilities. The fastest jet, the best radar, the biggest missiles. But after the cancellation of the Avro Arrow, we know the real question is independence. The F-35 is a technological marvel, but it's also a black box. The software that runs it is proprietary to the US. Every bit of data from the jet, every diagnostic code flows back to American servers. Canada can't fix its own jets, upgrade the software, or modify the mission data without US permission. If a Canadian F-35 breaks, we're at the mercy of the global supply chain. Now consider the political climate. The US administration has returned with a focus on America first, even threatening trade wars with Canada over aluminum and steel. What happens if relations with Washington sour? If our interests diverge, the US has the power to shut down our Air Force. We aren't buying a shield to protect sovereignty, we're putting on a leash. If you believe true national defense means having control over your own assets, not asking a neighbor for permission, hit the like button now. It helps spread this message to more Canadians who care about our independence.
Canadians prefer managing relations with the US through international law and reason. But you can't negotiate effectively when your neighbor holds the keys to your house. Take Germany. They're a NATO ally, but recognize the trap. They bought some F-35s for NATO requirements, but invested heavily in the Eurofighter Typhoon and the Future Combat Air System, FKAS, to ensure they controlled their own fleet, no matter who's in power in the US. Canada is putting all its eggs in one basket, held by an unpredictable partner. While we protect our borders, we also need to protect our economy. Let's talk about jobs, real, high-paying industrial jobs that build the middle class. The F-35 promised industrial benefits, but we're competing for scraps. On the other hand, Saab's proposal with the Gripen E is an industrial strategy. Saab has partnered with Bombardier, offering to build the Gripen E here in Canada. We're talking assembly lines in Montreal, a cyber resilience center in Toronto, and a sensor hub in Vancouver. This could create 10,000 jobs, but more importantly, it offers 100% technology transfer. Canada would own the blueprints, the source code, and the intellectual property.
This is Canada's chance to move from being a branch plant economy to a true aerospace leader. We could design the next generation of radar updates for a Canadian fleet, keeping billions of tax dollars circulating within our economy, funding our schools and hospitals instead of sending that wealth to Lockheed Martin in the US. Industry Minister Melanie Joly rightly questioned why we'd spend nearly $30 billion on a program that leaks so much value abroad. The Gripen proposal isn't just a defense program, it's a nation-building exercise, whereas the F-35 is just an import receipt. But all of this is irrelevant if the plane can't perform in our harsh environment. Canada's geography is unique, with vast land masses and a frozen Arctic to defend. The F-35 is delicate, designed for Europe's concrete runways or Pacific aircraft carriers. It dislikes extreme cold and needs a massive support system to function. On the other hand, the Gripen was built for harsh conditions. It can take off from snow-covered highways and land on a rough 600-meter strip. The Gripen can be refueled and rearmed in under 10 minutes by just 6 people, operating from the back of a truck. It's rugged, reliable, and built for remote operations. In a northern conflict, major air bases will be the first targets. If Cold Lake's runways are destroyed, we're stranded. But a fleet of Gripens could quickly deploy to northern airports, highway strips, or small outposts, keeping our airspace sovereign even under attack. The F-35 is a Ferrari. The Gripen is a Volvo. If you're driving through a blizzard in the Northwest Territories, which one do you want? This leads to a deeper issue: operational independence and the ghost of the Avro Arrow. In 1959, the cancellation of the Avro Arrow didn't just end a cutting-edge aircraft, it killed our national confidence. We watched our best engineers leave to help NASA land a man on the moon. The Avro Arrow left a scar, a belief that Canada couldn't build its own future. By choosing the F-35 today, we risk repeating that mistake. Instead of canceling our potential, we're outsourcing our strategic brain. Now, consider the practical consequences. The Northwest Passage is a contentious issue for Canadian sovereignty. We know it's ours, but the US doesn't. If a diplomatic crisis erupts there, can we rely on a fighter jet whose software and mission data are controlled by Washington? Will the US prioritize Canadian territorial claims over its own interests? This brings us to the critical issue of the right to repair. Just like a farmer who can't fix their tractor because of locked aftware, the F-35 is a locked tractor. But the Gripen, with its full technology transfer, hands us the keys. If something breaks, Canadian engineers in Montreal can fix it. No waiting for US approval. This isn't just about nostalgia for the Arrow. It's about learning from 1959 and reclaiming our national defense independence.
We have a second chance to stop the brain drain. By building a domestic fighter ecosystem with Saab and Bombardier, we can tell the next generation of Canadian engineers they don't have to move to California to work on the cutting edge. They can build the future right here. This is true sovereignty. It's the difference between renting and owning. After 60 years, Isn't it time Canada stopped renting its own defense? Many of you watching likely remember when the Avro Arrow was cancelled. Does this situation feel like history repeating itself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear if I'm the only one feeling this déjà vu. A new dimension to this debate has emerged recently, the Ukraine connection. Ukraine needs modern air power, and the Gripen is the jet they want. Ukrainian pilots have specifically requested it because it's easy to learn, maintain, and can survive missile strikes on airfields. Saab and Bombardier are in talks to make Canada the production hub for Gripens, not just for us, but for Ukraine as well.
With over 100 jets needed, this is Canada's opportunity to become a key player, not just a NATO freeloader. We could be the engine room supplying Europe's defense, gaining leverage and respect as a strategic player, not just a junior partner to the US. So what is the smart move? The pressure from Washington is intense, but we don't have to choose between total submission or defiance. The Canadian way is a smart compromise. Let's take the first 16 F-35s we've already paid for, using them for interoperability missions with the US. But for the remaining 72 jets, we should pivot to the Gripen E built in Montreal. This solution saves billions, creates 10,000 Canadian jobs, secures our sovereignty, and provides a plane capable of operating in the Arctic. Friends, true allies respect strength. Canada must stop acting like a customer and start acting like a partner. The smartest move isn't buying the most expensive option just because we're pressured. It's building a future we can control and afford, a future that's proudly Canadian. If you found this analysis useful, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We're building a community here that values facts over fear, and we need you with us. Thanks for watching.